What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel here with the Detroit Lions team breakdown. Let's get right into it. Last season, I think went surprisingly well for the Lions. Ended up having a winning record, missed the playoffs due to, I believe, a tiebreaker with the Seahawks, but finished second in the NFC North, eighth in the NFC. So they just barely missed out. And I think high expectations to not only make the playoffs this upcoming season, but also win the North. And yeah, I think that is definitely attainable. Looking at their additions, they made some nice moves in the secondary. You had Emmanuel Mosley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles. Really wish we got to keep him, but it's fine. Cam Sutton as well at corner. And then on offense, David Montgomery, Graham Glasgow, who's an interior offensive lineman. I don't know why it's not there. You bring back Marvin Jones, and then you also get Jalen Reeves-Maybin. So overall, some solid additions. C.J. Gardner-Johnson probably the most impactful. Looking at the losses, a pair of running backs, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. But you bring in David Montgomery and you draft Jahmyr Gibbs, number 12 overall, so I feel like the decision to move on from Jamal Williams after what he did last season was kind of confusing to me, at least, to pay David Montgomery more than Jamal Williams that ended up being paid, and then trading away DeAndre Swift to draft a running back number 12 overall. I don't know if I like how they handled that situation, but their running back room is still good. So you also lose DJ Chark, who went over to the Panthers. And then the secondary, Amani Oruwariye, Jeff Okudah, Mike Hughes, and Deshaun Elliott, all gone. You did add a bunch of guys in the secondary as well, though. And then also Quintez Cephas was cut after he was suspended for gambling. So just a depth wide receiver, also a loss. Looking at the draft class, I already talked about Jahmyr Gibbs a bit. Wasn't a huge fan of the Lions draft class, mostly because of the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. I know a lot of people are like, oh, if you rearrange their picks, like, oh, you get Brian Branch at 12, and then Jahmyr Gibbs when you draft Jack Campbell, and then Laporta, and like try to reason it to seem better. I don't think that works. I think 12 was too early for Gibbs, and yes, they got value on Brian Branch, but the players that they missed out on because they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs so high, and you traded away DeAndre Swift after the fact. So you could have kept DeAndre Swift, had Swift and Montgomery, drafted someone else at 12, drafted like Nolan Smith to add to the defensive line. You could have got another receiving weapon. You could have got a lot of options. Jack Campbell, I feel like, was a little early at linebacker. I think he was like the only linebacker picked for a while, so it feels like they could have gotten him later. The Laporta pick, I think he was drafted, I believe, the second tight end off the board. I personally had Michael Mayer ahead of him, but that's whatever. I do think you could have, again, I think there could have been a better pick there. The Brian Branch pick I really love. Brian Branch, you got him a lot later than I would have ever expected. I had him as like a late first-round guy, and I think you got great value on him. Hendon Hooker, not a fan, but you didn't draft him early, so maybe he'll develop into something, or Jared Goff will just be your franchise guy, because he's actually played pretty decently for them, at least last season. And then to end out the draft, Broderick Martin, Colby Sorstel, and Antoine Green, defensive line, offensive line, and wide receiver, respectively. So overall, I'm not a fan of the draft class, but I think overall the team did get better in the offseason. Looking at their schedule, there are some tough games on here. I do think that the Lions are probably the best team in the NFC North, but I think all four teams are very close. Then you play the NFC South, which is one of the weaker divisions, if not the weakest. It's probably them or the AFC South. And then also the AFC West, which has some strong teams in there, like the Chiefs and the Chargers, Broncos and Raiders also there as well, but not on the same level as the Chiefs and Chargers, obviously. And then Seahawks, Ravens, and Cowboys are all tough games. Looking at a potential ceiling for the Lions, I have it 11-6. I do think that they can put together one of the best seasons we've seen in a while for the Lions. I think you can sweep the Packers and Vikings, split the Bears if everything goes right. I think you can sweep the NFC South, beat the Broncos, Raiders, but I do think they will struggle with the Chiefs, Chargers, Seahawks, Ravens, and Cowboys. I'd be surprised if they won more than 11 games. I do think that is their ceiling, but I think it's possible. Looking at their floor, have it 7-10. This is splitting all their division opponents, losing to the Panthers in the NFC South, and beating the Falcons, Saints, and Bucks. Still beating the Raiders, but losing to the Broncos, and then losing to the Chiefs and Chargers, as well as Ravens, Cowboys, and Seahawks. This is kind of assuming it kind of all hinges on Jared Goff, is what I think. Is he played well last season, but we've also seen him play not so well. We've seen him go to a Super Bowl, and we've seen him just been at low points. He's had an up and down career. I do think that he can be their franchise guy, as shown by the higher ceiling, but if he's not, I think this team could end up disappointing, but personally I don't think they will. As for my prediction for them, I have it 10-7, splitting all their divisional opponents, beating the Falcons, Saints, Bucks, losing to the Panthers, and then here's, I guess, kind of my hot take, sweeping the AFC West. They have the Chiefs in the NFL opener, Thursday Night Football, first game of the season. I'm going to take the Lions in an upset win over the Chiefs in the first game of the season. I think it is going to be an upset. I don't think the Lions are going to be at that level. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be down in the Lions level. I don't. But you see games go weird ways all the time. Last season, I think it was week 3, the Colts beat the Chiefs, and no one would have expected that. Maybe the Colts got a lot of hype at the beginning of the season. Maybe some people would have, but judging by how the Colts went for the rest of the season, that was definitely a wild game. Chiefs coming off a Super Bowl win, first game, lose to the Lions. I think that gives the Lions a lot of energy and helps them have a lot of fuel to power through the rest of the season and do pretty well. And that's where I have this 10-7 record from. I do also have them losing to the Seahawks, Ravens, and Cowboys. Just some tough games, and you can't beat them all. I'm giving them the win against the Chiefs, so I'm going to have to take some losses in there as well. That's all I have to say about the Detroit Lions. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and thank you for watching. See ya.